Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Keeping It Real with Tiff and Carl. I'm Carl Rabun.
And I am Tiff Salcido.
And Tiff, it is dark outside. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, and this is our first dreary day of the year, or at least dreary day since summer. And the rain is starting to
Can't relate.
fall. Can't relate. Yeah. Oh, tell us what you can't
Can't
relate to.
relate. I can't relate because it's lovely, wonderful 80 degrees here today. The sun is out. There is a little bit of clouds though. There's a like little fluff of clouds. We have a
Wisp,
nice
little
cool
puffs.
breeze,
Hmm.
little puffs of clouds. Yes, just like the ones you see in my background. Those are little puffs of clouds that I have going on. I spent all day yesterday at the beach, and then from the beach we went to the pool, and then we're at the pool, and then we're just hanging out, swimming, and enjoying the sunshine. So sorry that you have rainy, gloomy days. I'm like in paradise right now. And then at night it gets super chilly cold, so you get to put a hoodie on and be in your hoodie. It's like literally the perfection. Perfection.
Yeah,
This is what I live
desert
for.
living. Desert living. Then it's like
Desert.
it's the 2 weeks of the year that are really nice to be in the desert, I'm sure. Yeah. There's 1 week in
Yeah.
November and 1 week in April or beginning of May. That's what I remember.
I have to break your bubble here. It is like this about 9 months out of the year. This is the motto for where I live here is no bad days because the weather is immaculate like this, except for the summertime. The summertime is disgusting, but other than that, it's like between 70 and 80 degrees most days with the chilly nights. It's literal perfection. I love it here so much.
So
So
moving
that's why I'm in
forward,
my still in my little tank tops. So this is why I'm still in my little tank tops and my little sundresses because I can. Because I can. Yeah.
I mean that's cool. I actually had it was really nice here yesterday. This is the
Mhm.
one day of the week. If you looked at we looked at our calendar because my wife was out in the garden yesterday and it's going to rain today. Everything else was like 8% chance, 2% chance. This was 99% chance on Saturday night. So we're like,
Okay. Gotcha.
so yesterday was actually really cool. It was about 70 with no wind. I played tennis. Actually, it was perfect. It was Chamber of Commerce
Mhm.
type of weather. So, I'm just complaining because it's gloomy. Right. And we always talk about the weather.
Yeah. Can't relate. Can't relate. We did though, I will say last week on like Thursday and Friday, or maybe Wednesday, Thursday, doesn't matter. It was super windy. I mean, like sandblasting, super gu high gusts of wind. So that was kind of uncomfortable because we're in the sand, we're in the desert. So, if you're outside, the wind hits you, basically free exfoliation for your skin. It was pretty rough, but once that cleared up, it was gorgeous. It's been gorgeous ever since. So love
Yeah.
it.
Well, I was in Ventura last week and I was there
Oh,
on
so
Wednesday and it was super windy. It was so windy it actually knocked out the power in the hotel I was staying at because I was doing a class um in the morning and then I drove to the airport in the afternoon and the wind actually temporarily knocked out the power. So I was on Zoom and all of a sudden I see the little box that says can't connect to Zoom or Zoom can't connect to the internet. And I was like, what the hell? And so I went to use my hotspot. I had my computer was fully charged. I figured we are gonna be good. And then it came back on. But still, it was a little
mm,
that's how bad the wind was. And then when I came out, what I thought was a windstorm. I'm like I said, I lived in the desert for 12 years. I'm used to wind. And it was coming from the east. And one of the freeways was shut down. So I had to go through the pass from Ventura to Magic Mountain to get to LA.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
when I got to about Fillmore, I looked up and it was the fire, that the mountain fire that,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
And it was directly above us and it had just really started to blaze. But I mean, plumes of smoke were everywhere. And then as I'm driving towards Magic Mountain, all the fire trucks are starting to get there. So, those are rough. And I'm worried about, I don't know, even know if it's still been contained, but it's something that's yeah, my thoughts are with everyone who's been affected by that or any fires. I mean, shoot, that's no fun. Like, I've been in the middle of them. It's no fun. So, yeah,
I think about that a lot just growing up in California when I've like looked for real estate or like where I want to live at. Like we've gone to some really nice neighborhoods and I'm like, no, this looks like it would be bad in a fire. So that's like always on my mind when I'm looking for a place to live. Like, nope, this is dangerous, right? Like I won't live here. I can't imagine. I've never lived through a wildfire. It's never happened where I've been at, but I've seen enough devastation and like driving through like burn scars and here I just it's like I'm always terrified of that, like majorly. My house here, because we're like where my house is here in Mexico, we're kind of remote and we don't have like running water out here. So like we have running water in our house, we have a tank, but it's not like firefighters can come hook up to a fire hydrant where I'm at. So
mm,
we have fire extinguishers literally in every corner of the house. Like every room, every space has a fire
yeah.
extinguisher. We have like 8 of them throughout the house,
Oh,
just in case. You never know.
oh.
Terrified of fire. Terrified.
Speaking of your Mexico address, how far are you guys from Zihuatanejo?
I have no idea. Why are you saying big words I don't understand?
You don't
I
remember
don't understand.
Zihuatanejo?
No.
It's
Should I know that?
from the Shawshank Redemption. You remember that's here. Did you
Oh,
watch that?
yes, I do. Yes. Okay. I'm not good with details. You already know how I am. But
That's
yes, I
that's
do
where they
remember.
ended up.
Yes. I don't
Yeah.
know. That probably might be in mainland. I'm in Baja California, so that's like a
Yeah.
whole different world from
Well,
mainland Mexico. But
well, I think it's down on the Gulf, so I think it's on that side. It's
maybe
not
the
on.
Texas side.
Maybe I don't know. I looked at it at a map one time because I'm a nerd like that. When I hear something, I have to look it up. But I can't remember.
I'm looking it up now. Sorry.
Oh, you're a nerd like me.
I'm
Go
gonna look
ahead.
it up. I am. I'm like one of those people that like if I'm watching a show and I recognize them and I'm like, uh, where do I know them from? I have to like stop, hit pause, figure out where I know them from, and then I can continue.
Me
Okay, I
too.
found it. Okay, so this is in, we're way, way far away from that. So, so just to give you like a point of reference, I'm about 15-hour drive from Cabo San Lucas. So I'm like 15 hours north of Cabo San Lucas, and it looks like it's about that same amount. So I'm several long trips away from
Yeah.
wherever you said. So I'm not even gonna try. Yeah, that's on the southern part of Mexico, southern southwestern part of Mexico, and I'm far, far from that. Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's on the water, right? So
Yeah.
when I yeah, okay. All right, see.
Well,
That's
yeah, they're on the Pacific or they're on the Pacific Ocean side. I am on the Sea of Cortez. So I
okay.
am my water that I have here, my beach is not Pacific Ocean. It is
Yeah.
Sea of Cortez, which the Colorado River dumps into it. So
Well, so
that's where I am.
I thought the map said it was on the Sea of Cortez. See, I don't know. See, and this is not good podcasting because now I'm looking forward to because I'm silly like that. Okay.
I don't
No,
know.
I was wrong. You're right. And it is. It's
I
on
love
the
when that
Pacific
happens.
Ocean.
I love when that happens.
Every wife does, yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. So very cool. Well, I have a question for you. And I pulled from my deck. And so you ready for this, Tiff? My
Born ready.
question, my question is, what was your first car?
Ooh, the first one I got to drive or the first one I actually owned? Because those are two different questions. The
Both.
Okay, so the first car I drove that was like mine to drive, it wasn't my vehicle, but I used it for my transportation, was a 1978 Econoline van, like the big, huge conversion vans,
Yeah.
huge. And it was like the original yellow and brown color the original yellow and brown color, and the back seat of it wasn't bolted down. So if you made any stops, if you had people sitting in the back, that seat would go flying. If you made any sudden, you know, aggressive stops. So the other thing with that car, that van, was that sometimes it didn't work, and so you'd have to hit underneath it, and randomly it would start. And then another fun fact about that is that you had to turn off the radio when you got out of the car, because if you left the radio on, it would drain the battery. And the ignition I had, it was like hanging down at the bottom, so you'd have to pick it up and turn it on and then let it hang again. So there was a lot of excitement with that van. It was a fun van. My actual real first car that I bought for me was Mazda 626, a Mazda 626. And I bought it used, and I was so proud of myself for getting my first used car. And I love that car. I love that car. But within like 3 weeks of me buying it, the motor went out and I had to get the motor. It
Oh
wasn't my
wow.
fault. It was just a bum car. And so that car was a lemon. And when it drove, it was perfect, but it was in the shop more than I probably drove it. And so I ended up trading it in, and getting something else after a while. But I love that little Mazda 626. That was a fun car. And it was one of the few vehicles that I've seen that with the air conditioner, it has a swing button, and you could have like your vents like oscillate like a fan. And that was pretty freaking cool.
Oh
So that was
wow.
like the best feature of that car.
Yeah, that
But it,
sounds cool.
yeah, sorry. I was really excited about that. The Mazda 626.
No, oscillating fan shoot. I could go for that. I need
Yeah,
that air current. So the fan on right now.
exactly.
Yeah.
So those were my first cars. My dad, though, I will tell you this. My dad gave me on my 16th birthday a Chevy 2. It was like the car right after the Nova or before the Nova. I don't know the history. I'm not a car person, but my dad gave me this Chevy 2. I want to say it was like late 60s, but it didn't run. And so I'm like, Dad, you gave me a car that doesn't run. He's like, but this car will be worth money someday. And I carried that damn car around with me until probably like 23 years old, just moving it from home to home until one day I got a ticket on it for like having an abandoned car, which was against our city ordinance. And so I sold it to one of my dad's friends for like a ridiculously low amount because I just wanted to get rid of it. And now my now husband is like, you should have kept that car because he's into cars. And I'm like, hell no. So that was like the generosity of my dad giving me an unrunning car for my 16th birthday. Like if I was going to go to the mechanic and get it fixed, I don't know what he was thinking.
Here's your inheritance.
Exactly. Like, no thanks, Dad. No thanks.
Uh, uh,
What
very
about you?
cool.
What was your first car?
So my very first car, I mean, I learned to drive in my mom's 1987 Chevy Astro van, and
Mm-hmm.
which she had until 2014.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, it's not it was a great story until it wasn't. But my first car was a 1989 Hyundai Excel. And
Okay.
so and this was before Hyundai became good Hyundais, right? And so they were brand new into the market. And I made a deal with my dad. He said, if you get on the honor roll, I'll buy you a car. I said, all right. So I got a 3.4. And as soon as I got my report card, me and my girlfriend flew down to have him buy us a new car, to buy me a new car. And so he got the cheapest deal he could find. And just to make sure, he knew, I knew he's going to give me a car, but I was a little too eager for that. Right. So anyways,
Mm-hmm.
he got me the car, and it worked great. And I drove it around everywhere, and I was the driver and my friends, and we used to have good times. And, you know, um, I went through a lot in that car, and then right about, I guess about 4 years in, it couldn't smog. And so like, like you said, like a
Wow.
lemon, right? And I remember my dad's mechanic, I was living in LA with him at the time. My dad's mechanic said, just so you know, this car was meant to start burning oil at 80,000 miles. They want you to buy a new one. And so I was like,
Oh,
oh,
how
okay,
funny.
great. Yeah. So,
Fantastic.
yeah. So I ended up, having that. Then I switched, I switched cars, whatnot. And then I got in an accident and it was the other person's fault. And so the car was totaled. And the only reason it was totaled, the front end was smashed in, but it was not even worth the repair. Right. So it was like
Hmm.
maybe 2,100 bucks and the car was worth 1,800, so after 5 years. And so I bought, I got the insurance money and I bought a 1987 Volkswagen Jetta that, and I didn't know the term salvage. I didn't know what that was. Just figured, hey, it looks good. I've always wanted a Jetta. It's going to run. My dad checked it out at 7 o'clock at night. I was like, yeah, it seems like it's running okay. Bought it for, the whole insurance money. And it lasted me a good 4 years, but I mean, there were things weren't wired right, and like you said, you turn on the car, the radio wouldn't start. I finally got it all rewired, and my dad actually got me a paint job and everything like that. And then um the starter was busted on it. We went through about 6 or 7 different starters. I spent, 125, 150 bucks on them every time. And there was supposed to be a heat shield, and there wasn't the heat shield, or they put on the heat shield and it was still not working. So whenever I drove the car, once it got hot, if I stopped the car, I had to wait for the car to completely cool down before I could start the car again. And this is when I was going to UC Davis from when living in the Bay Area. So I was driving an hour and a half and I would park it and I was stuck on campus until it cooled down. But then to make matters worse, I had to take a wrench or a um, long screwdriver and reach down into the starter and tap it.
Yeah,
And
I did that with the van. Yep.
yeah, and I had to tap it to get it started. So if I had to go to the bathroom on the way home, traffic, I had to leave the car running, you know, um, leave the car running in Dixon or Vacaville and run into the bathroom. And I mean, half hope that someone stole it because, it's not going to do you any justice. I used to take my backpack and everything with me into the bathroom if I had to do that. Right. And
Yeah.
so, and then I would park it. I went to work after that. So I'd bring my change of clothes because if I went home and changed, I couldn't start the car to get to work. So I would just go straight to work, change in the bathroom. And then by the time, we closed the store, Sears, um, then I was able to restart it because it was cooler, in the Bay Area. But yeah, so that lasted me until 99 and I'd had enough and I went and bought a new car. But it was, yeah, those are fun first cars, those things. I don't know. I don't know if everyone's had those experiences, but it sounds like we both did.
You know what? Can I tell you about my like fourth car?
Yeah, sure.
So I actually went from that Mazda 626 and I thought I was all bad. And so I traded that in and I got a brand new Volkswagen Passat. Let me tell you, but I ran that poor Passat to the ground. I did some Dukes of Hazzard shit in that one day. I don't know how, and I like got air and I broke the oil pan. That's a whole nother story, maybe for another episode.
Yeah.
But eventually I wore that car down. And then I had a Mountaineer, and then that had some problems. And so I ended up buying, this was my favorite car. I ended up buying this. It was an Audi station wagon, green, like forest green. It was a 98, I want to say, 1998 Audi A8 station wagon. It was luxury when it was brand new, but I bought it in like 2012. So it was already fairly old. But the car, I bought it for $500 and it ran, but it did not have park. So the transmission did not go into park. It also did not have a working emergency brake. You had to park strategically. And if you turn the ignition too far, you couldn't turn your headlights on. So like again, there was a trick to it. The other thing with that car eventually is that the the I don't just there were so many things. The fan did not turn on, like the fan that cools your engine, so you could not be stuck in traffic. The car just had to keep moving. So when we would be in LA and the traffic would stop, we would just go drive on the side roads until we could get back on the highway because you had to just keep moving. And
Mhm.
then the front headlight got broken out. Don't ask me how. I'm not sure how that happened. I think someone backed into it. And then I rolled out of a parking spot and hit something and broke back tail light out. So I had a broken front tail light, broken front light, broken tail light. And I remember I used to get, oh, and I didn't have tags on it. I didn't go get it registered right away, or like it took me like 2 years. Don't judge me. It was a long time ago, but I didn't have registration on it, and I used to get pulled over all the freaking time. And one of the cops looked at my car and he asked me some questions, and he says, "This car just screams, pull me over." So I used to take that car everywhere. I lived in Central California. I would drive it to Mexico and back like every other weekend. I mean, we used to go to Six Flags in that car. Like I went every I that car finally I had to retire it because there was like it had gotten broken into. They had broken the back window. The back window to replace cost more than the whole car cost me. So I had to retire it. And it had like almost 300,000 miles on it by the time I retired it. But I loved that car. We called her the Green Machine. The Green Machine. I had so many good memories in that car. So many good memories. I miss her. I just bought a Subaru too. I don't know if I told you. I just bought a
Yeah.
Subaru, the Subi. So she's her name. We always name our vehicles, and so her name is Baja Betsy. That's what we've decided her name is, Baja Betsy.
Nice.
And so now she gets to be parked with Bootsy and Bonnie, which are other two vehicles that we have here. So Bootsy, Bonnie, and Betsy. Those are our vehicles right now. So
Where's
great
where's
question. I'm smiling about these cars, huh?
where's Beatrice? Yeah.
Beatrice, we don't have, but we do have an Annabelle. We have an Annabelle, and we have Big Bertha. Bertha is another one of our vehicles. Big
Wow.
Bertha. Yeah. So we have a lot of fun. There also would be that wasn't on purpose. It just worked out that way.
And the information provided by the host does not always reflect the views of the other host and is not a recommendation on how people should live their lives. There's a
All of
disclaimer
my
right there.
vehicles are registered now. They all have park. They all
We
have
recommend you get
emergency
your
brakes. They're
tags
all very
and that you
functional.
drive street legal,
Yes.
without having to
Listen, it
tap
was a different
starters.
time.
Oh, hell yeah, it was a different
Yes.
time. Anyways, yeah.
It was a different time. It was a different time. I was in my 20s. Rules don't apply until you're 30 and above most of the time. So, the impetuousness of youth is the excuse I'm going to use here. I was fighting for my life, trying to raise kids and work a full-time job and go to school. So the tags, I did not worry about it. And I was like, what are you going to do? Tow it? It doesn't run But I'm a I was a pretty young lady, so I didn't get much trouble. I did get one ticket for my tags one time on that vehicle. And I got them fixed. I that took me to the DMV and I got it taken care of. So it was registered after that.
So you're going to ask me about my pet peeves, right?
Yes, what's your pet
Okay.
peeve? What's your pet peeve, Carl? I
Well,
was gonna call you
I
somebody
have
else's name.
I have one specific. Well, yeah, I have one specifically, but a pet peeve that I have is that girls can get out of tickets easier than guys, right? And I don't think that's
Mm,
fair. But anyway, but no, my pet peeve is when people interrupt you
mm.
and and they, well, I don't mean to interrupt, or I don't want to be rude, or if I don't say this right now, I'm gonna forget. To all three of those, I'm like, okay, well, you're being rude. You did interrupt me, and if you forgot, then it must not be that important to say, right? But yeah, that's. I mean, I have a few pet peeves. I guess I'm a little more sensitive than I'd like to portray. Although I've learned to as an adult and as a adult person of color, I've learned to roll my eyes and sigh, and and start hearing, the Earth, Wind, and Fire song in the background. That's the way of the world, right? You just deal with it, but um, I shouldn't have to deal with it. It sucks, right? Which is what a pet peeve is. How about you? What are your pet peeves?
So, I found out that I apparently should not have like a pet. I think I need like a peeve sanctuary because I have many. I'm like, oh, I just go with the flow, but there are certain things that like really get under my skin. I am really, it really annoys me when people are rude to people, especially service people. If you're rude to your waiter or waitress or your wait person, um, I'm probably gonna have some comment for you because it's hard to stay quiet when people are being nasty to other people. So I'll probably make some little sarcastic comment to you on the way out or something. I also, my pet peeve is when people don't tip in American restaurants or just restaurants in general. Uh, like you may not love tipping culture and maybe we wish it was a different way, but the reality is that these people are working for their tips and if they give you great service, like tip them. I have some people I have dined with that they're like, "Oh, we left $2." And I'm like, "Our bill was 117. The $2 is like a slap. Like don't give them anything at that point. Just keep it to yourself." So, people who don't tip irritate me. Again, not tip for everything. So that's another. Here's another pet peeve of mine. Like tipping culture is out of control. Like if I go up to the counter and order my food, and then I come up when you call my name and I pick up my food, I'm not tipping you. You didn't do anything above and beyond. If I order online and I pick it up, I'm not tipping you to go through the drive-through to pick up my order because you didn't go above and beyond. But if I'm at a sit down restaurant and you come and you sit and you take my order and you bring me drinks and bring my sauces and all the stuff, I'm absolutely going to tip you and tip you well. But um, the I don't remember what the tip was for the other day. I was doing something online and they wanted a tip. And I'm like, I literally did the whole thing. Do I get that money back? Is like it a discount because I did all
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I couldn't believe it. So that's a pet peeve. Tipping culture is a pet peeve, but when you don't tip, it's also to me a bit offensive to the server, especially if they did a good job. If they give you horrible service, then by all means don't tip. But if
yeah,
they're doing their job and they do it well and they're kind to you, then by all means, please
yeah.
be nice.
No, I'm a good tipper.
Yeah,
I think I'm a fair tipper, right? I'm nowadays I'm usually 20%, right?
yeah,
But speaking of that, a pet peeve of mine is the automatic gratuity.
oh yeah,
I understand tipping is part of people's salaries, but it's also not compulsory,
right,
right? So,
right,
like you said, if somebody is not giving me good service and there's an 18% automatic gratuity on it, I don't think you should get, I may give you 15. I don't know, right? I might give you 10,
right,
right? I don't usually go to 10, but I might give you less than what is on the recommended thing, right? And so it's that automatic, my wife and I went to our favorite restaurant. It just reopened at a new location on Saturday, and they have an 18% gratuity on there. So the last couple of times I was there, I didn't leave extra tip. You put that on there, you
right.
put that gratuity on there for two of us. I mean, if it's a
Yeah,
bigger party, sure, I get that. I understand. That's a lot
right,
of work. But for the two of us, and you put that extra gratuity on there, I understand who it's for and what it's for, and I'm glad that kitchen workers and dishwashers are getting parts of tips now.
right,
But let me give you a tip. I mean, I'm sure you can't trust everybody to be like us, right? And
right,
I know
right,
there were people in my life who used to say, well, they get a wage, don't they? I mean, right. But so it came out and it was a gratuity, and the server said, "This is for all of us, and it's not just for me; it's for everyone in the back." And he was a nice kid, super nice, super attentive. So I had $9 in my wallet. So rather than put it on the credit card, will it get split up to everyone else? I said, "Here it is, and here's for you." And he kind of lit up, and he was happy about it, right? I'm sure he couldn't tell anybody, but I just wanted
right.
him to know that this was for you, and the rest can be split up. And I hope y'all deserve it because you do a great job. It's a great place. We'll
Yeah,
go back again. But that is something that when I see it, that automatic, like I said, parties of six or more, I get it.
right.
If it's just the two of us, man, let me do that.
Yeah,
Don't put that on me. I mean, I'd like to
I'm
be
with you.
asked rather than I'd like to offer it rather than be told that it's compulsory. Yeah.
And if it is compulsory, like I hope that they're telling you ahead of time, like all these little surcharges at the end, like 4% service charge, 2% health insurance charge, 18% gratuity. I'm like,
Yeah.
just change your prices on your meal. Quit like sneaking them in at the
No,
end. Like I don't feel like it's a
no,
pet
don't
peeve
change the
too.
prices. Don't change the prices because people say, "No, food is so much more expensive than it was." Oh my
So what?
gosh.
At
I
least
hate
it's
that
up
shit.
front. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to be political, but I am going to say if you're complaining about the food being more expensive, I remember when I could get a loaf of bread for 85 cents. I remember when I could get a pack of gum for 10 cents, right? I remember when I
Mm-hmm.
get a soda for 25 cents. You know why? Because that was 30 years, 40 years ago, okay?
Right.
Stuff, I mean, if you really look at relative the prices and whatnot, and people want to blame politicians and whatnot, let's blame the fact that the world's wheat fields have been on fire for the last 3 years because of wars, right? Or blame DoorDash. Blame Yeah, that's something I noticed, Tiff. I don't know. I use
Mm-hmm.
DoorDash and Grubhub, so I'm not going to complain. But supermarkets have jacked up their prices now because of Instacart, because of Uber Eats,
Yep.
because of all those things, because they had to to make up for all those delivery services charging them fees. I get it, right? And now they're like, well, if people don't mind 50 cents, maybe we can make it 75 cents, right? And so I understand how the world works. And there have been no politician in the history of the world that has been able to control the price of bread, the price of bacon, the price of gas for crying out loud, right? So just move on with that shit.
I know.
You got excuses, you got to do what you need to do. But when you point out those little things, have a historical perspective. And if you don't have a
Exactly.
historical perspective, then that's a pet peeve of mine too, right? So
Yeah.
do
Thank
your
you.
work.
Oversimplifying complex issues, right? Like there's not a simple solution for complex issues, but again, government doesn't set the price of commodities. Government doesn't set the price of eggs. Government doesn't set the price. You know what that's called? It's called communism. And we
Exactly.
don't do that here. That
Exactly.
that's if you want the government to set the prices of things, then you're a communist. There, boom, I said it.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know what my pet peeve is? You know what my pet people who don't understand government and get to go vote for stupid shit when they don't understand how things work. That's my pet peeve. Anyway,
yeah.
remember I told you I could start a peeve sanctuary? I This is the place. If you've got a complaint, I'm your girl. If you've got nothing nice to say, come sit by me today. I'm on one.
Be curious, folks. Be curious. That's it. If you hear something, even if it's from your favorite person, go look it up. Go look it
And
up.
not just Google. Don't just
Yeah.
Google it. Don't go to
No.
your favorite. Get like a few sources. Critical
Yeah.
thinking. Is this
You
true? How do I know it's true? Who's paying for the research? Who wrote it? Like all of that gives you clues on.
and you know what? And go to a government website. See, here's the thing. Government employees are not appointed. They're not politically appointed. They're doing this for their career. So regardless of where they're voting, they are providing you information. They're putting it out there. Let you decide what it is. They're not trying to cook the books, and those things can get found out very quickly. Go look at the labor stats. Go look at the economy. Go look at those things. If somebody says something, say, okay, so where did you get that from? Where can I do? It's not hard. We have a supercomputer in our hands. This is
Yeah.
more powerful than the computer I had in 2000 that said it will never be obsolete, which is bullshit. So, I mean, it's not hard. It's not hard. And if it is hard, then, then that's why your brain hurts. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. But
I'm just over here smoking my fake cigarettes because I get stressed out. Like this week was a rough week.
yeah,
I was in a lot of disbelief. And again, we're not a politically leaning show. People, you believe what you want to believe. Like that's your right. That's your right. But at the same time, choices have consequences, and we shall see what those consequences shall be in the next 4 years or so. And I very rarely like to be wrong. I don't like to be wrong, but in how I'm feeling right now, I really hope that I'm proved wrong over the next 4 years. I really, really, really want to be wrong. And and that's not something that I take lightly. I
Yeah.
really, really want to be proven. I can't wait for someone to say I told you so to me. I will be,
Yeah.
tell me so. Please let
Yeah.
me be wrong. Shove it
Yeah.
in my face how wrong I am. I want to be wrong so bad.
But
Please.
until then, pay attention. Pay attention
Yes,
to the price of gas 4 years from now, like you did about the price of gas 4 years ago, right?
exactly.
Pay attention to that stuff. Pay attention to
Yep.
see how far things move up and down.
Yep.
Look into statistics. I know it's a dirty word for some people who don't like math, but you know what? If you don't look, then your opinion. It's really hard for me to. I mean, if you're getting your opinion from somebody else telling you something and you haven't done your work on it, and I have a hard time, saying that your
Hmm.
opinion is valid, right? And
Right.
so
Well,
and you know what? And whatever your vote is, that's fine as long as it's informed, as long as you have
right.
a good reason for it. If you are
Right.
passionate about something, I know some people who vote based off of religious beliefs. I don't necessarily always agree with them, but I can understand at least why they do that, right? But if it's just, well, I just heard somebody say this and I don't like that person because they're so and so, or or come up with the
Yeah.
same talking points that you hear 20 other people say. Yeah, no, come on, man. Just do your work. Just do your work. That's it. If you do your work and you give me a valid argument based off of what you've read, then we can have a cool discussion about it. But and like I said, I
Yes.
I do. I hope I'm wrong and I'm rooting for America. God damn it. I love America. Every time the Olympics come back, that's who I root for. I don't root for anybody else. I don't care if they're from Burlington, Vermont. I don't if Omaha, Nebraska. I don't care. They're on my team, right? We are all on the same team. Can we act like it? That's hard.
I don't know. I left the country, so I don't know. I actually left the country, so I am rooting for America, though. I am rooting for America. But can I get one last pet peeve in? One last one. I promise you, this will be the last one. This is a hill that I'm gonna die on. Quit calling Americans who leave the United States expats and start calling them what they are, which are immigrants. I when people like where I live at, a lot of people have come from Canada, a lot of people have come from the United States and have made their home here in this little fishing village in Mexico. And they're like, "Oh, I'm an expat." And I'm like, "No, you're not an expat. You are an immigrant. You are an immigrant in this country, just like anybody who comes to the United States is an immigrant. You are an immigrant." And so I think language is so important in like calling things what they are. I will never ever call myself an expat, and I will never ever allow someone to call themselves an expat. I always say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I think you mispronounced immigrant. You're an immigrant here. This is not your country. You immigrated here. And so you're not an expat. You're an immigrant." And I will die on that hill. That is my biggest pet peeve. That is my biggest pet peeve is when people call them expats. There you go. Passionate about that one.
Immigrants, they get the job done, like Hamilton
That's
said.
right. That's
And,
right. That's
technically
freaking
you're not
right.
an expat because you still have a mailing address in California until you are. But then I will make sure not to call you an expat, right?
I'm
So
an immigrant.
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
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 I have no
I
problem
just
calling people what they want.
Yeah. Well, my whole thing is this expat, it's like, again, this imperialist American, America first, like, I'm an expatriate and I moved to another country, but I'm an American. But you don't call, like, what names do you have from people who come from Canada? Do we have a special name for Canadian immigrants that come to the United States? Do we have a special name that's not derogatory for people who come from Mexico? Do we have a special name that people who come from Cuba? Do we have a special name of people who immigrate here from South America? No, we call them immigrants. So guess what? You're an immigrant too. You don't get a special cute name because. So,
Yeah. You're
anyways,
not you're not a
oh,
snowbird. You're not a yeah,
spicy
yeah.
today.
Yeah. Ooh, that's yeah.
Spicy pet peeve. But that is my biggest thing. I just don't. And the challenge I have as an American here living in another country, I'm an immigrant here. I'm a visitor. I am like I am learning the customs. I speak the language. I am not making like I'm not making Mexico America. I am honoring Mexico for the country that it is. And there still can be like American customs here, which is great. It's fine. We all assimilate and everybody kind of gets along. It's community. But what I'm not doing is taking over and making the people at the grocery store, speak my language. I speak to them in their language. Again, I'm not complaining about the price of food because guess what? That's the price. That's how much food costs. And do you know why the cost of food is so high here? Because of all the immigrants coming from America and Canada raising up the prices, and then being mad about it because people aren't speaking English to them. And oh man, everybody here speaks Spanish. You are in Mexico. And this is that the language here is Spanish. And so there's people that have lived here for like 20 years that still don't speak Spanish. And in the United States, it's different because we don't have like a national language. We have lots and lots and lots of languages spoken. There's not a national language, but here it's Spanish. Spanish is the predominant language. Not only that, there's other indigenous languages that people speak, but where anyways, immigrants, not expats. There you go. I'm done. I'm done with that rant. I'm off the box. I'm jumping off. I even pushed it to the side so we can talk about what we came for today, which is goals. My goals is not to get so irritated by people who say expat instead of immigrant. That's my goal. Let it go. To let it go. To each their own.
Tom Brady is the only expat that I know that I claim.
It,
So yeah,
he can call himself an expat because he's an expatriate. Yes,
yes.
that runs. He doesn't have to call himself an immigrant. That rocks. I like that one. Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Carl. So next
Hey,
time someone says they're an expat, I'm going to ask them, Did you play with Tom Brady? Were you on the Patriots at the same time that Tom Brady was? That's going to be my next question. Thank you for that.
and and he's a Bay Area Peninsula boy. So I mean, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to go with that.
All
All
right.
right.
So what's your goal? What's your goal for today, Tiff?
So my goal for today is to Um, I have a bunch of clothes up in a little closet room that are just in totes, and my goal for the end of the day today is to get them a bit organized so I know where stuff is at. Because right now I got stuff everywhere but where it needs to be, and so I need to like get organized so I can have a little bit of peace. Because right now I'm a little chaotic because my home is in chaos, and so that always translates to my moods and my energy are a bit chaotic until there's order. So once that's my goal today is to get some
What's
order in
what's
my
your
closet.
what's your plan to get order in the closet?
So what I plan to do is I'm going to take everything out. I have three big tubs in there right now. I packed them approximately 8 months ago, so I have no idea what's in them. So I am going to take everything out and I'm going to fold everything and put it in piles and see how much I have of everything. And then once I see how much I have of everything, I can make a plan of action to where stuff is going to go. That's my first action step. And because it's going to be a while as part of my process, I'm going to have me a little drinky drink to sip on while I do this very tedious task of organizing clothes.
And who's going to help you accomplish your goal?
I don't want anybody around me while I'm doing this because
Okay.
if someone tries to help me, they're going to mess up my system. I need my
Hmm.
system to be my own, but I will have the support of my mom and my husband to leave me alone so that I could get this done.
That's
And
important.
so, yeah, no, seriously, they're both very, very helpful. But if I say I just need to do this by myself, I don't want any help, then they support me by leaving me alone. Or if I need help, I say, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And they'll come help me. But this is a TIFF solo mission. I don't need any support.
Okay.
None.
Cool.
Goal planning. I see what you're doing here, Carl. I'm on to you. I'm on
And
to
how will
you.
you hold yourself accountable, Tiff?
I will hold myself accountable by not refilling that drinky drink until I at least have the piles done. I'm going to set some milestones along the way where I
Hmm.
can celebrate each step. So once I get the clothes out and sorted, then I can go refill and then I can come back and decide where they're going to go.
Okay. Okay. Very cool. All right.
Milestones.
Yeah, I like those.
Hmm. Hmm. So you just had helped me formulate this whole plan because in my mind I was like, I'm just gonna go sort the clothes today, and now I have like a real clear vision of what that's gonna look like. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yep. So
it's so
thank you for that.
important, of course.
Hmm.
And when you accomplish this goal, how's it going to benefit you? What how are you going to feel?
I'm gonna feel great because I'll know where my clothes are. Like right now, I've been recycling like the same four things because they're on top. And every time I like look in those tubs and I'm like, what's even in here? I like dig it and then it makes a bigger mess and I'm just like overwhelmed. So I just haven't had time. I haven't made the time for it recently because I've had other like priority things going on. And then today it was just that point of I got to get this done today. I can't go another night thinking about this. I just need to do it. Point of no return. I'm kind of like that with goals because I am not, generally speaking, what I would consider a very goal focused person. Like, I'm not a planner, I'm a doer. So in my life, I kind of set an intention or I get an idea of what I want, and then instinctually I make it happen. I'm not a huge planner per se, but on a smaller scale, I can be. On a smaller scale, but like big like long-term goals and stuff, I can't be like I'm going to do this by this date because then it becomes overwhelming. I'm more of like a manifester. I don't know if that's a real thing, but I manifest. I'll be like, again, I did that with this move to Mexico. I decided I see myself in a little quaint little house out in the middle of nowhere by the water, living my best life. And then within not even exaggerating, 6 months, boom, there. Manifester.
Very nice. Very nice. And when people have the capacity to be able to manifest that and make it happen and are definitely
Mhm.
excited and motivated, things get done. But I've there's been things I've manifested I've manifested cleaning up my office space and it's still coming together. And the manifold of the manifest, I should say. But because it is a man fest in this bitch right
Right.
now, but it needs to be picked up and cleaned, right? But it's just, something to think about. Some people are really great at having an idea of what they want to accomplish, but then don't have the specifics of how they're going to accomplish it
Hmm.
and why it's important, right? And so, that's really an important piece, that when um when I think of goal setting and the research and the work that I've done on it, modern goal setting was, the theory of goal setting was created in the 80s, believe it or not, by Edwin Locke,
Wow.
right? Which is crazy because I mean, you think about how many people have had goals their entire, probably
Hmm.
since, oh, I need to pick up this rock. Well, maybe if I make two of the rocks round and then I put it on a board, oh, now I have something to carry. Or damn, it's
Right.
cold outside. How do I stay warm? Right? Oh, that tree caught on fire from the lightning. Oh, that gives me warmth. Maybe I should try to figure that out. Right? We've had goals for years, since
Yep.
the beginning
Yep.
of civilization, right? But Locke really he boiled them down into like 14 different findings in his treatise that he did in the 80s and 90s. I happened to look into his theory for my dissertation, right? And
Hmm.
I looked at the 14 different um, needs and I said, it what the 14 different needs need is a little compression because they need to
Hmm.
be less redundant, right? So I just said, how do I boil this down? So out of 14, it really came down to four, right? Four needs that I saw, right? And he said goals have to be specific, right? So I want to clean up the house is not a goal. I want to go through the bins that I have and sort them out and put them onto the shelves is a specific goal, right?
Hmm.
And that usually includes a deadline. So I'm going to get it done today, right? Or I'm going to get it done by the end of the week,
Hmm.
right? Um, you have to have it has to be something that's realistic, right? So it has to be something that you can do, that that you have what's called self-efficacy to accomplish. I
Hmm.
believe that I can accomplish this. This is something that is not a pipe dream. This is something that if I focus on, I can get it done, which is the other piece. Goals have to be challenging. They have to be something that stretches you, right? It can't be something that you do every day. It can't be just part of your daily tasks, right? If you have a daily to-do list and you never get it done, your goal can be to finish your to-do list. That can be a goal, right?
Hmm.
Um, or if it's a task that you know you can get done, but there's just reasons why you haven't got it done, like, manifesting my manifest, right? It's to get it done is a goal because that makes you focus. It has to be stretched, it has to do something where you sacrifice something, right? It has to be something where you give up something or, focus on that completely. And the last thing is you have to have somebody in your corner. You have to have somebody who can hold you accountable, right? And that's an important piece because the accountability piece, we have people in our lives who I just call it like I see it, but that's not holding you accountable. Very often, if they are holding you accountable by running you down, oh, you said you're going back to school. I knew you wouldn't last, 2 weeks in that school, right? You've never been in school. You don't even like school, or all those things. Like, well, you said you're going to lose weight. Every time you lose 20 pounds, you end up gaining 30 back, right? So those are not people to hold you accountable. Those are haters. I'll say that a little louder. Haters,
Haters.
right?
Haters.
And some of those people might be the people that are closest to you in your life. They might be family members. They might be people that, and very often they're not intentional haters. They're not intentionally, you know, um, dousing water on your goals and dreams. Sometimes it's just how families learn how to talk to each other, right? And how, or maybe just life has beaten them down to where maybe they don't feel like they're accomplishing much, right? And so those folks, you can definitely, I mean, of course you have to have them around, especially if they're family. I mean, you can't just pick away family, right? Well, you can, but it's a little more emotional than that, right? But to have those people who
Hmm.
are like, hey, you said you're going to walk around the building, or walk around the block 3 times this week, so how many times have you done it? Oh, you need to do two more? Okay, it's Friday. I can come over and help you if you want, and I can walk around the block with you today. And then maybe all you have to do is Sunday by yourself, right? Just those type of folks who are holding you accountable, but at the same time are not running you down. Psh, you said you're going to walk around. I knew you weren't going to walk around the block, right? That's not affirming. It's not uplifting. It's not supporting. It's crabs in a barrel. All right. Don't get
Yeah.
too high because I'm gonna pull you right back down and let you realize, you ain't, and some people, you're not any better than anybody else. I get it. The idea of humble and humility. That's, to this day, I know for the grace of God, there's many choices I've made in my life that have led me to where I am. I'm super grateful for the places I am in my life. And I don't, you know, discount that at all. And I know that I'm no better than anybody else, right, in terms of a human being. But that doesn't mean that you can't be more driven than other people. It doesn't mean you can't be more informed than other people, right? It doesn't mean that you can't work on yourself to improve yourself and hope that everyone else comes along with you. And if they don't, well, then sometimes it's a journey you have to take alone, right? So, I really think when people say, I want to be humble, I'm no better than anybody else. I think, being humble is recognizing your gifts, the gifts that God provided you, or your higher power provided you, or just maybe your parents provided you, or whatever it was, right? And recognize, how can I maximize my abilities to do the things that I want to do in life, right? That's what humility is for me, right? Becoming a social worker, I knew I was never going to be rich, right? you know but I also knew that there was a passion there, and it was something that I was willing
Hmm.
to hear people out, not judge them, try to support them as best I can. And, that I was put in the right position to be influential. So my career moves have been I don't want to not have been totally successful, but they've been intentional to be able to provide as much influence as I can to help families, to help other people, right? So, and it doesn't mean I'm any better than those people in terms of being a human being, because I know I'm not, but I'm in a position to be able to utilize my accomplishments for their benefit to help raise them up. A rising tide lifts all boats. And that's the challenge, right? A lot of people think, well, I heard this weekend or on a in a gosh, what was I was on a call. I was on a class on Thursday, and somebody said, "Well, what about Carl? What about people who say, I don't want to train you because you might take my job, right?" And and I
Take
said,
it.
"Well, I said I said that's fine. I mean, because you might want your boss's job, right? Or you might like your job and do very well at it. And if you have people that you've trained up to take your job, other people see that you're training these people up to get to your skill level, right? And I reference because I reference sports all the time, but I reference
Mhm.
football, right? And I talk about the coaching trees that are there. So, and I use the example of Bill Walsh, who was the coach of the 49ers because he was the greatest coach of the greatest team of all time. And no arguments, and I don't want to hear it because you're a hater otherwise. And so I and so I talk about if you look at the pictures of his Super Bowl winning teams, he has you know, um, coaches, Mike Holmgren, Ray Rhodes, a bunch of other people who became coaches in their own right. And some of them won Super Bowls, right? And then those folks have people in their Super Bowl pictures who have become coaches in their own right. And some of them have won Super Bowls, right? And so you see these branches of people that come back to that one person, Bill Walsh, who created that Bill Walsh coaching tree, right? And so, and if you really want to go deeper, Bill Walsh is part of the Paul Brown coaching tree, which is goes even deeper.
Mhm.
And so, if you are building capacity in other people to take your job, they don't necessarily have to take your job; they'll take other people's jobs, and they will utilize what they learned from you to uplift their organizations, right? I if we want to get it back to what we know. One of my bosses, Aurora Alcala, right? And I think her name is Aurora Silvet now, right? But I knew her as Aurora Alcala, and she was my workshop unit manager. And in that workshop unit was me, and another friend, Brandon Evans, who is now working for the county in terms of his overall, county planning, but he was
Mhm.
a program director for two different programs for Department of Human Services. Three other people who have been supervisors, one person who retired as supervisor, right? So, and countless others, right? And so that is a thought in the county. Hey, do you want to go into the workshop unit and work for Aurora? That's a good place to be able to, if you have ambitions for upward mobility or just to do good, right? So what do you think that does for her reputation that she is enabling and empowering and building capacity in others to be able to take jobs at her level and even above, right? She becomes a guru. Hey, you've done pretty well, building up our bench strength, how do you do it? Now she has a reputation. When she retires, she's going to have that reputation. They're going to talk about all the stuff that she's done and how amazing that is. And that's who I want to be. I want to be those people that I want to be that person that had people that were underneath me that ended up becoming people above me and that'll support me in my goals. That's a rising tide lifts all boats.
Mhm.
So if you're worried about somebody younger coming in and taking your job, eventually you're going to retire. If they're a lot younger, they might take your job. But then they also might take somebody else's job. They might take another vacant job. Or, and if you are training them and providing support for them in a intentional and thoughtful way, you're doing nothing but improving your organization. This concludes part one of our episode. Stay tuned for part two, coming Tuesday to all major podcast platforms.